No, I think that it gives him great momentum. I think it gives him a huge shot of confidence and really good momentum going forward for the rest of the year. I know, like, the fan base is pretty excited right now.
Welcome back. Another episode of Nebraska Shootaround. I'm Austin Jacobsen in for Anna Bellinghausen. Today, she's out doing all the coverage stuff and trying to make sure that we can cover for her. And we got Mike Sautter with us talking a little Nebraska hoops. And let's start on the women's side, Mike. Obviously, another hot and cold week for Nebraska women's basketball. They get that big win against Maryland on Thursday, a road blowout. They dominate, get 91 points in that contest. And then they fall on Sunday to Illinois, who's, I mean, they're not a team to necessarily write off about. They're pretty good at fighting Illini squad themselves, but just not a lot of consistency between this group so far.
Yeah, look at the Maryland game first. They were trailing by double figures and then came back. It was a pretty big time win, to be honest. So it gets a top 25 team on the road, especially the quick turnaround from losing Monday night in the fashion you did at home against Iowa, which the vibe wasn't great after the game. And then you go to Maryland, like, you have to go on the road, and when I say quick, I mean that's Monday night you play, then you play Thursday. And for them to come out and win that game, now they shot 12 of 21 from three. That'll certainly do pretty well. 57% from three. It will always work for you. The matchup is good too. Like, Maryland doesn't have a ton of size. Alexis had a big game, 20 and 11. It's another double-double. It's like her 7,000th double-double of her career. I think it's actually like 53 or 4 or something like that in the 50s. So it was good. And they got more balanced scoring. And I guess we talked about with Anna last week, they need that third kind of scorer person to go with Britt Prince. Well, Birdie Rimdahl has kind of been that in the last handful of games or weeks. So she's been good. But they got double figures from 6 different players. So that's always, you're always likely going to win if you do that. So unless someone just has 30 or 40. And then the Illinois game is just, Illinois is pretty hot. Like, they're playing extremely well. Forget what it is. It's like 7 in a row or something. They had 2 major injuries, Illinois did. And they tried to get those girls back to play and kind of work through injury. And then they just finally decided, you know what? Nah, their season's going to be done. Ever since then, their rotations obviously have been trimmed and slim. They played 7 people against Nebraska. Ever since that decision, they've been playing extremely well, real hot. I mean, they're 11 and 4 in the league and 21 and 5. So it's a good team, especially on the road. I will say that it's losing that game doesn't hurt quite as bad because you won at Maryland. And if you split that road trip, anytime you can split a road trip in the Big Ten is good, no matter men or women. So it's a positive outcome from a road trip as far as an overall perspective from wins and losses.
And a third quarter struggle in that contest. Obviously, very contrast different in the second half for the women than what we'll talk about with the men coming up. But the big news coming out of the Illinois game is an injury to Britt Prince. Do you see this as maybe having to put more onto the plate of Alexis Markowski, that she's going to have to shoulder even more of the load with another injury for the Huskers?
Yeah, hopefully it's a minor situation, not a major situation, because geez, man, like, that'd be 3 if it's a big deal. It'd be 3 pretty big injuries. Hopefully it was just kind of maybe a rolled ankle that you can fight through a little bit and maybe miss a little bit of time, but not a season ender type of thing. Again, I go back to, though, like, Birdie Rimdahl. Maybe, I don't know who the primary ball handler would be at that point. Probably Callan Haig. Maybe Birdie jumps in the starting lineup. It would be a major loss, and finding a way to get some perimeter scoring and defensively on as far as Britt's concerned, it would be tough. It'd be a tough blow. Hopefully, like I said, it's just a miss a little bit, few days type of thing. I'm not sure what more Alexis Markowski can do, to be honest with you. So can she average 25 and 15 coming down the stretch here? That's a lot. She's probably capable of doing that, but at the same time, it'd be quite a bit. I think if Britt does miss time, it would be probably Hake or Rimdahl would be your ball handler people that you rely on probably a little bit more, because you have Logan Nisley and those are the two kind of guards that it'd have to be Hake and Rimdahl, I guess.
And as you mentioned too, Alexis already tying her career high in that Illinois game, but still not enough as Nebraska fell in that contest. They are back in action at Pinnacle Bank Arena, taking on Oregon on Wednesday and then Washington on Sunday. Two pretty tough matchups coming up for the Husker women. Let's move over to the men's side.
Hey, at least those games aren't on the road.
That is true. Not a West Coast trip for sure. Onto the men's side, and what a performance in the second half. And Mike, I think it comes down to one big question. Who had the bigger impact in the second half? Brice Williams and Juwan Gary, or Fred Hoiberg's ability to smash a whiteboard?
Yeah. Well, things were not going well in the first half. Obviously, it was pretty bad. And then it looked like in the start the second half, it was going to be even worse, because Tiberi just hit another three, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. They're losing 41-21 on the road at Northwestern with 19 minutes and I think 15 seconds left in the game, right? Like that. 19-15. They were losing by 20. That it was basically over, right? Like the game was basically over. And then for some reason, Nebraska did the one thing that they have struggled with the most all year. They actually did it on the defensive end. They were able to shut off a guy that was on a heater. And that's something Fred Hoiberg has talked about multiple times. He always talks about it. When a guy gets going, it's really hard to shut him off. And Sam Hoiberg did not score a point in the game. He had a major impact on the game. He basically shut off Tiberi for the whole rest of the game. Tiberi didn't score again. And they had huge contributions. Like Brice Williams deserves all the praise, all the credit, all of everything. He's also averaging 4.1 assists in like the last 5 games or something like that. And he's obviously averaging over 20 because he's now, 5 in a row or 6 in a row with over 20. But the assist thing is key for him. The unsung kind of guys that have helped this team win, because you kind of know now, like, okay, we're going to get about 20 from Brice. We're going to get about 15 and, 6 or 8 rebounds from Juwan. Like, those are your senior leader guys. Those are the guys that you just kind of chalk that up. Braxton Mia had a huge game. It's huge second half. Blocked some shots, and I guess he blocked the shots in the first half. His rebounding and just defensive presence at the rim was huge. And Connor Essegian had all 4 of his defensive rebounds to get stops were in that third segment of the second half. When I say segment, I mean, okay, from 20 to under 16 and then under 16 to 12. So the under 12 to under 8 is when Nebraska went on like 10-0 run. That was when you knew, okay, bang, they're going to pop this. And that was when Essegian had all 4 of his defensive rebounds, all under the basket. They weren't like long things. I mean, he tried to take another charge in the game, which is a step in the right direction for him. So those 3 guys, I think, had a massive impact on the game. And to Braxton Mea's credit, he could have pouted. He could have been, when they made the starting lineup change to Andrew Morgan. Nope. And now this is actually a couple games in a row where he's played pretty well in the minutes that he's gotten. And he's made free throws. So there was at one point in the season, this was, about a month ago, he was dead last, 359th, I believe. I looked it up. I remember writing it. He was dead last in the Big Ten in free throw percentage by individual player. And now I think he's made like 5 of his last 6. So, credit to him for fighting through it, frankly, and his team needed it. It was an unbelievable game. If you're a fan, your emotions went from like one extreme to the exact opposite in about an hour. It was kind of fun.
Credit to the fans that stuck around and watched throughout that entire second half, because I know there were probably moments when that first half was going that they probably wanted to turn it off and look somewhere else and see what other games were going on in the state at that time. But this game felt like a compilation of what we've seen from Nebraska at their best, that every single player had their role and performed it to their duty, right? That they weren't necessarily going superhuman. They weren't playing this Herculean effort. Is that sustainable the rest of the way for the Big Red, especially in this last stretch of the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think they're in this nice kind of rhythm right now. And they winning that game without Berke Buttigieg, again, who Fred Hoiberg has called the team's best rebounder and best post defender. Not sure I agree on the post defender part. That's just my opinion, which I'm entitled to. So that winning that game and giving up 14-2 offensive rebounds in the first half and everything that went so bad in the first half, to turn that around, it was literally the halves were just flipped. It is crazy. And to turn that game around without Berke playing is a major positive, especially, you don't want to lose 2 in a row. And you didn't want to lose in embarrassing fashion, frankly. Yes, it's a quad 1 win against Northwestern, but Northwestern is also now 4-11. They were 4-10 in the league and 13-12. It's just not a good. It wouldn't have been a good loss, and it would have. That's a postseason resume thing where you're like, that one might come back to hurt you. If they would have lost by 20 or something. Coming back now, you have all this positive, momentum. And frankly, they kind of need 2 more wins of their next 5, which I believe they can probably, realistically, I think it's probably a 3-2 stretch out of the next 5. But now you're like, all right, if we get to 19, we'll be good. 10-10 in the league. It's what I said at the very beginning of the season. You just got to be around 500 in the league, either 9-11, 10-10, 11-9, something like that, and you'll be a 10 seed or 9, 10, 11 seed in the NCAA tournament. And that's squarely where they are right now. They have the formula they set last year, and it's just the repeat of the formula is happening again this year with this team.
Well, Mike, how about this next upcoming stretch for the next 7 days for the Huskers? I mean, you talk about that Northwestern game being a not great blemish if you drop it. This road test at Penn State feels like a can't lose, but then it's the exact opposite with a home matchup against Michigan, where it's one of the Big Ten's best teams.
Yeah. So before this 2-game swing on the road, Northwestern, Penn State, I was like, okay, they got to split. If they can just split those 2 games. Now, okay, you won the game that has in the place that and against the team that's given you major problems for, I guess ever. That was the first win since 2014 that Nebraska's had at Northwestern. And then you go to another place at Penn State that is going to probably be a pretty sleepy crowd. It's also, Penn State's not playing great right now. They've lost a handful here down the stretch. but it is also kind of like, is it a Penn State team that's kind of, all right, we're ready for the season to get over, or will they continue to play hard and play well? I know Ace Ball, like their point guard is great, so taking care of the ball is going to be important. If you can go 2-0 in this road trip, that means the two toughest kind of road trips where you have back-to-back, where you just stayed on the road all season, you go 4-0. It's pretty big deal, especially off a program that didn't win a Big Ten road game last year. At Penn State, I think is probably a 50-50 game. Nebraska probably be favored by a cup 1.5 or 2 or something, maybe. So it's one of those, and it's a kind of early game. It starts at 5:30 Central Time, so 6:30 Eastern Time, a little bit earlier. So we'll see if they can kind of bring their own energy in that game. It'll probably be similar to like a Washington, where the crowd won't be super, into it or anything. And then you play 2 7-footers at Michigan against Michigan on, Monday. And you're going to need Berke Buchtenjel to play in that game. He didn't make the trip to Northwestern on Sunday. So does he make the trip? Do they just fly him out for Penn State? Maybe, maybe that's a thing. But they will need him to beat Michigan, who's a very good team. And Dusty May's done a tremendous job this year in his first year there. And the 2 7-footers that they play at the same time. So you're probably looking at like a Morgan, Buchtenjel lineup, Mia and Morgan at the same time, maybe, just to try and combat that 2 big guys for Michigan. But if you can beat Michigan in Lincoln, you could lose the next 3 and you're fine. Like, it's not a big deal.
So outside of the next 2 games, let's give it the full rest of the stretch of the regular season. What would you, Fred Hoiberg, and the rest of kind of Nebraska basketball like to see from this team moving forward, outside of maybe just getting Berke healthy? Is there something that's still sticking out that's kind of a sore thumb for this program and where this team's at right now before they head into the postseason?
Yeah, there are a couple of biggest things. Is one, their 3-point defense is still 348th in the country. That's not great. So it's 46.8 is the style component on KenPom. 3-point attempts to field goal attempts. So they're giving up that many 3-point attempts. Another thing is the non-steal turnover percentage is still 265th in the country. That's at 8.3%, or 8.3 that's way too many or way too big of a number. And they had some of those again, like live ball turnovers, right? Just kind of chucking it out of bounds or dribbling. Like Brice even had one yesterday where he just kind of dribbled it out of bounds. That's not good. And then offensive rebounding percentages, they don't offensive rebound the ball that great. They're 276th in the country in offensive rebound percentage. So those are the 3 areas that you really kind of need to get figured out. Now, the non-steal turnover percentage and the defensive 3-point attempts to field goal attempts percentage, those have been way bad all year. So I'm not sure how you can just kind of flip a switch and change that. But I will say that as far as the turnover thing has gone, in the last 5 games before Northwestern, well, second half of Northwestern was much better. So let's go 5.5 games. They've done a much better job of not just chucking the ball out of bounds or dribbling off their foot and things like that. So it's been better. Just the offensive rebound thing is a little bit concerning. And some of that has to do just the matchups at times, but it's like Northwestern offensive rebounding was a major problem in the first half, and Northwestern is just tougher. So I like to see them just kind of clean up those areas of things and finding a third scorer. They need a consistent third scorer, like a consistent guy that can get you 10 to or 8 to 12 even, right in that range. A third double figure score would be huge, because Brice can't shoulder everything all the time, because someone's going to figure that out eventually.
All right, Mike, let's get you out on this one. Obviously, when it comes to a big second half comeback, you don't usually see a team struggle to keep that energy up following that type of contest. It's usually the opposite. If you get blown out, or if you give up a big deficit like that and stumble late, it can kind of maybe derail the season. Do you think that this is a marquee win for the Huskers, that they can keep it rolling, or do they come back to even when they hit the road to Penn State?
Yeah, I know. I think that it gives them great momentum. I think it gives them a huge shot of confidence and really good momentum going forward for the rest of the year. I know, like, the fan base is pretty excited right now, and it could have been the exact opposite of that. So I feel like it gives them pretty good momentum. I feel like the only way they lose at Penn State is just like, it's just a really tough, weird place to get. It's hard to get to, and the crowd will be kind of light. So we'll see though. Like, by that time, Penn State's probably like, our season's kind of over. So let's move on.
Well, luckily for the Huskers, their season just seems to keep on getting better, especially as the season progresses. And we appreciate your time, Mike. And we appreciate everyone tuning in for another Nebraska Shootaround. If you're looking for more Husker coverage, make sure you're checking it out across all the Hurrdat Sports platforms, across all of social media. And Anna will definitely be back next time to be able to break down more right here from Nebraska Shootaround.